Hi everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. I am Eeshah Khalid. I am a permanent faculty member at Zabist, and I've been associated with Zabist for the past 10 years now, actually going on 11th, so that's a long time. I've been teaching here for the past 7 years, and today we have on board the esteemed Hiba Thobani. Everyone in the legal fraternity knows who Hiba is, but Hiba, I'm going to give you the opportunity to please introduce yourselves to our audience.
Thank you so much, Eeshah. So my name, as Eeshah has already said, is Hiba Thobani. I am also a permanent faculty member at Zabist, and this is now my 7th year affiliated with Zabist. And Eeshah and I both teach various modules. So Eeshah, back to you.
Yes. So the purpose of having this webinar today, the purpose of coming online, is to basically understand a little bit about the program. I feel like LLB is something that a lot of people are interested in, but because of lack of knowledge, lack of information, not really knowing what it's about, people don't really know where to do, what to do, where to go, right? So we're just going to have a quick session where, I'll be asking you a few questions so that whatever questions, that people have, that potential candidates have, they could be answered right away. So starting off, basic question. If you could just tell us a little bit about the nature of the program. What is it? What is LLB?
Sure. So the program that we offer at Zabist is an LLB program, but this one is basically a University of London program, which is slightly different from the local law program, and that's something we'll talk about in a little more detail.
Okay, and I think the first question that everybody wants to know, how long does it take? Kab job lagegi and you start making the money, like how long will it take to finish the degree?
Absolutely. So the degree is generally done in about 3 years, but the maximum time of doing the degree is 6 years. So you do have time to be able to space it out a little bit more if you feel that you can't complete it in 3 years. And people who already have a graduate degree can actually do it in 2 years. So it can be done quicker as well.
Okay, so that's amazing. So that means that on average, it's about 3 years, right?
Right.
Another, I think, source of confusion for a lot of people, especially people who don't know about the program, given that, they're studying at Zabist and there's University of London involved, the degree that they're ultimately getting, is it being awarded by Zabist or, what is the entity that is awarding the degree at the end of the day?
Yeah, I think that's an important question. So though you are going to be studying at Zabist, and your teachers are going to be at Zabist, and this is where you'll physically be placed, but your degree actually comes from the University of London, which means that this is actually an internationally recognized degree. The University of London, of course, is an extremely established and well-known university in the UK. And so you can actually take this degree for further studies or, if you want to look for employment opportunities abroad.
All right, that's great. That's amazing. Again, another question. So students often do get very excited when we tell them that, the degree is only 3 years long, right? But then another source of confusion is that, they say that, ma'am, we went to another institution and they said that it's 5 years long and, we have to do something else before it and what are the qualifications, etc. So what is this difference? 3-year program, 5-year program? What is the difference? And is there a difference? Does it make a difference if you do the 3-year program? Or if you do the 5-year program, what is that all about? How do we, what is the shortcut we're using? How do we end up making them finish the degree in 3 years instead of 5?
Right. So there's no shortcuts. This is the nature of the degree, as we said in the beginning, because you are getting your degree from the University of London. The course and the program requirements are set by the University of London. So essentially, the reason it's shorter is because you are studying a degree that is different from the 5-year program. The 5-year program is a local LLB, which means that you are getting, you're studying different courses. The courses that you're studying are based around Pakistani law, and the requirements are different because your degree awarding body is different. So there are no shortcuts. It's not that we are doing, a different type of degree. They're both LLBs, but this one offered at Zabist is UK based, and the one that the 5-year program is Pakistan based.
All right. So again, the webinar is about LLB and CertHE. Now, this new program that Zabist has introduced, another source of confusion. What do we do? Do we do LLB? Do we do CertHE? Which one is better? Which one, do we qualify for? So what is it? I mean, Pele, it was plain simple LLB, right? What is this CertHE?
Yeah, so the CertHE program is actually a 1-year diploma program, which is slightly different from an LLB, which is obviously a full-time 3-year degree. The CertHE is basically, I mean, you would think of it like an alternative route to get into the LLB. Now, why do we need an alternative route, and why would an applicant care about that? Well, it's actually quite simple. If for some reason an applicant does not meet the admissions requirements for the LLB, for example, let's say you have an applicant with an intermediate background. Now, the LLB admissions requirements, and we'll get into that in a bit, requires you to have an O&A level background. But let's say you don't have an O&A level background, you have an intermediate background instead. So you can actually do the 1-year CertHE diploma, which then allows you to transfer into the LLB program. But perhaps I should clarify one thing. This does not add an extra year. So this does not mean you'll have to study 4 years. You can still complete your LLB in 3 years. It's just that your first year will be done in the CertHE, enrolled in the CertHE diploma, after which you will then transfer into 2nd year LLB and then your 3rd year of LLB.
So what you're studying in your first year of LLB and what you're studying in CertHE is essentially the same then?
Absolutely, yeah. Same courses, same teachers. There's only one additional requirement for the CertHE program, which is an English language requirement.
All right. Okay. So I think that makes sense. Now, as you said, 3 year, I mean, a lot of emphasis on how we can, finish the degree in 3 years. And I love that, honestly. But you also mentioned that the program can also be done in 2 years. Now, what is that all about? And who are the candidates who can actually finish the degree, get the same LLB degree? Is it the same degree? Is it anything less? Is it a diploma? What is it? And how can you do it in 2 years? What's the way of doing that?
Yeah. Again, the 2-year diploma, the 2-year degree is an allowance given by the University of London for people who already have a graduate degree. So essentially, if you've already done a 4-year undergraduate, or if you've done a 2-year undergraduate along with a master's, you become eligible to do this degree, but in a shorter span of time. Again, it's not a shortcut. It does not mean that we're cutting corners. It just means that because you are considered a graduate student, you would be enrolling in the program via a slightly separate route. You have to study less courses, but at the end of the day, you get exactly the same degree as your peers. You get the University of London LLB degree.
Okay, and who decides whether you qualify for this or not? Does Zabist decide this? Does University of London decide it?
The University of London decides. So Zabist gives admission on the basis of the University of London requirements. But then the case for a graduate entry student goes directly to the University of London, who then basically gives the final say on whether they accept your undergraduate degree as being recognized or not.
And is it a regular occurrence? Do we have graduate entry students? Have we had graduates? Does it work?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, every year we have many students who come in on the graduate entry route and complete the program in 2 years rather than 3 years.
All right, amazing. So another thing, Hiba, I feel like people don't really, students especially fresh from A levels or having done their intermediate, law is not a field that people know too much about, unfortunately, right? At least I feel that way, right? So, I mean, something like a BBA, like again, business, medicine, people know what it's about, engineering, they know what their post-grad options look like. But for somebody who has a law degree, so let's say somebody comes to Zabist, does this University of London law program, graduates within 3 years, what are their post-grad opportunities then? Like, what can they pursue after a law degree?
I mean, there's actually quite a range of post-grad opportunities. If somebody wants to specialize more within law, they can choose to do the bar program abroad in the UK. They can choose to do the solicitors program in the UK. They can choose to do a master's in any subject under the sun, law, politics, literature, absolutely anything. They can then specialize further, do a PhD if somebody's interested in going into academia. So really, I mean, the world is your oyster.
Amazing. At this point, I'd like to say that if anybody has questions, please feel free to put them in the comments and we will address those questions one by one. Again, moving on, related but slightly different question. okay, let's say we're done with the education, right? We're done with the degree, we're done with the postgrad or no postgrad, whatever, right? What other professional opportunities that exist out there? Having done law, is going to court my only option? What are the things that I can do professionally?
Yeah, no, not at all. I think that's a common misconception, right? That law means that you're going to be like Suits and you're going to be working in a firm or working in court. That doesn't happen. You again have many different opportunities. You could choose to go into the corporate sector. You can be an in-house legal counsel for a company. You could go to court and be a litigator if that's what you're interested in. Alternatively, you could work at an NGO. You could do policy work. Or research. You could go into politics, which many of our graduates have actually done, or if interested in government work, right? So the LLB actually gives you a platform to be able to do many different things, in the future.
All right, so then that means there's a wide variety of things that can be done, really. There's a lot that can be done. All right, so okay, that's promising, that's encouraging. So we've spoken a little bit about the program. We've spoken a little bit about law generally, that basically applies to any law degree. Let's talk about Zabist. When did Zabist start offering the law program? So what's that story like? What are the origins?
So Zabist was actually one of the first universities in Karachi to begin offering the University of London LLB degree. It's been 18 years now. So the program started being offered in 2002. And since then, obviously, we've come a long way. Initially, Zabist would just offer the LLB degree. Now we offer the LLB and CertHE diploma as well. And Zabist is also now a recognized teaching center of the University of London, which again is something we can talk about in a little bit. But yeah, I think, extremely established. And one of the things that we're very grateful for is the fact that we have this long history of offering this program in Karachi.
Yes, and I'd like to add to that thankfully, as a result of that history, we have a very, very strong alumni network, right? We've got graduates who are, who've made partners, who are heads of legal departments of multinationals spread all over the world. So it's very, very heartwarming to see. Again, our seniors, our juniors alike have done so well. So you mentioned recognized teaching center. That was going to be my next question. I just wanted to know if Zabist is recognized in any way by higher educational authorities here at home or in UK. I mean, does it have any recognition? Does it have any status? Is it officially recognized or something?
Yeah, absolutely. This is an actually extremely important question, which I think many applicants also ask us. So yeah, the first and perhaps most important is that Zabist is a recognized teaching center of the University of London, which means that we have formal teaching status, which has been given to us by the University of London. It means that obviously there are inspections done by the university. They are coming in and they are assessing our teaching methodology and our campus and our student life, so that's kind of a certification that we have from them directly. Other than that, what's extremely important to keep in mind is that because Zabist is an established university that offers multiple programs, not just law, Zabist is also recognized by the Higher Education Commission. So the HEC has vetted our campus, including the law program, and has also given us recognition. So that's something to keep in mind, that Zabist is an HEC recognized and HEC certified university, including the law program as well.
All right, amazing. I want to now sort of get into the actual the program, as in the content of the course. So, for example, again, when we talk about law, I think the only idea of law, if you say law to someone, the only thing they imagine is a courtroom, like as you said, suits. That's the only thing they think of, right? Or okay, maybe if they know a little bit more, they might think of contracts, taxation law or something like that. But the idea of law is, let's face it, very, very glamorous, right? That is the idea. Judge Saab, Your Honor, I object, all of that, right? All of that fun stuff. Now, my question to you again, and this is something that I again want the audience to know and understand, is that fine, that is the law. It is. I'm not denying that that's a part of it. Most definitely is. But when you come to law school and when you start studying, things are a little different, right? So for a student who, let's say, has no law background, no law in A levels, no law in the school that they've studied, they've never studied law as a course, right? For someone like that, in, let's say, let's talk about the first year first. Okay, we'll move on to the other years later. Let's talk about the first year. In their first year, when they enter law school, they've enrolled and they have no idea what they're in for. So again, they don't know whether they're suitable for law or not. They don't know if they have the aptitude. They don't know if they have the skill set. They don't know if they'll be able to manage it because they have no idea what they're going to be studying and what is going to be expected of them, right? If you could just tell us a little bit about the kind of courses they'll be studying, and then of course the way that they're going to be not examined. We'll come to that later. That's another question altogether. But what is it that the degree is looking for? What is it that the university is looking for? What is going to make a successful law student?
Right. So the first thing to keep in mind is that if you are doing the standard 3-year LLB program, which is what most students will be doing, then you're basically studying 4 courses every year. So that's 4 courses in your first, second, and third year. In your first year, you have all mandatory subjects, so you don't get any options in the first year. You are basically studying 4 what we call our core courses. There is the ever famous criminal law, which is what I teach, and what I like believing is everyone's favorite subject, obviously dealing with crime. Then we deal with contract law, which again, almost like the name suggests, dealing with contracts, how are they formed, how do they break, how can you make them, break them, all of that. Then you have public law. Now, public law is, I guess, a little less well known, and this is, I guess, what we would call kind of like constitutional law, which deals with the constitution of the UK and how the country is governed, essentially. And finally, you have, the course that you teach, Eeshah, which is legal system and methods, which basically gives you an understanding of the basic working of the English legal system. And so those are basically your 4 core courses in your first year. And like I said, these are mandatory. So every student will have to study these and pass these in order to qualify and move on to second year.
And what do the second and third year courses look like? I mean, just off the top of your head, what kind of courses do you think are there?
Right. So again, second and third year, you have certain mandatory courses. You've got tort law, you've got European Union law, you've got trusts, you've got property. So these are, again, your core courses, jurisprudence, which, you come into third year, things get a little more abstract. And then you've got certain optional courses. And those, vary kind of from a year-to-year basis, but some of the standard ones are things like administrative law, you've got Islamic law.
Which is very relevant to what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so with optional courses, students have a little bit more leeway to kind of choose what they want to study. But obviously with mandatory courses, again, you have to pass those courses in order to, qualify onto your second or third year.
All right, thank you for that. Before I move on to my next question, how about we take a few questions? So Waleed Raza asks, what are the academic path to complete LLB after MBA?
Yeah. So this is kind of, I guess, what we were discussing earlier, which is that if you are already a graduate student and you are somebody, who has completed a master's degree as well, then you would be eligible to do the LLB program in 2 years rather than 3 years. So the sort of pathway is what we would call the graduate entry route. You would still apply to Zabist. You would still have to give us your documentation, fill out the form, and we'll talk about all of that in a little bit. But eventually, you will be able to complete the program in a shorter span of time than perhaps some of your peers.
All right. I think, that was his next question also. What would be the duration? So we've answered that. Neeraj Narwani asks, this is an interesting one, Hiba. Which program is best, LLB UOL or local?
So because obviously we offer the University of London program, we do believe that because of the fact that it's internationally recognized and opens up more opportunities for you post-graduation, that the University of London LLB does have that kind of edge over a local law degree. Keep in mind, for anybody who's watching, this does not at all mean that with a local program you cannot go abroad. But when you have a University of London degree, that means that you do not need to get any kind of extra documentation to prove in another country that, the degree that you've done is in fact eligible or is in fact recognized by that country. This LLB degree is one that you can literally take with you for a master's program in the US, in Canada, in the UK, in Australia. And otherwise, there's a requirement, some of you may be familiar with, there's the requirement of an equivalency perhaps, or a requirement of taking extra tests or an exam, or perhaps doing a conversion program. None of that is necessary when you have, an internationally recognized degree like the University of London degree.
Okay. So Muhammad Ali Lakhani asks us about the examination criteria and the academic calendar for the LLB program. Ali, I'm going to come to that in a bit. I will ask that question because I think that's very, very important. So just stay tuned for that. We'll let you know. Mir Zaman asks the criteria of the LLB degree and the duration required after graduation. So as Hiba said, if you've already done your graduation, it's going to be 2 years. Granted that the University of London accepts your degree. And criteria, again, that's something we're going to come to. Mir Ghulam Murtaza says that he's completed his BBA from Zabist and further wants to pursue LLB in 2 years. So is it necessary to provide IELTS, or can I use English proficiency certificate as an alternative? Hiba.
So when it comes to the LLB program, whether you are, applying through the standard route or through the graduate route, we do require the IELTS exam. If, however, your university could provide an English proficiency certificate, that is not an allowance that we kind of make generally. During the application process, if that is a request that you want to make, that will be decided on a case-by-case basis, based on your whole application. But we do require the IELTS. So if somebody is applying for the LLB program, do keep in mind, and we'll talk about this, of course, but the IELTS is necessary.
All right. Sharjeel Sangi asks about scholarship for CertHE. Sharjeel, unfortunately, there's no scholarship available for CertHE, but if you are to enroll in CertHE and you pass all your courses and you make it to second year of LLB, second year onwards, we do have scholarships available. So you can get scholarship in second year and you can get scholarship in third year. That's going to be need-based. But for the first year, that's going to be a CertHE year, so that there will be no scholarship available. And finally, I'm going to take the last question before I move on to my own questions, because I still have a few to go. How much it may cost per year with the expenses of Zabist and UOL? The fee structure, Muhammad Abu Bakr, the fee structure is given in detail. It's actually broken down very, very clearly, and it's given in detail on the brochure, and you will be able to find the brochure on our website. If you log on to www.zabist.edu.pk and you go find the law program there, there's a separate brochure for LLB and there's a separate brochure for CertHE. And that very nicely sets out the payment that needs to be made to University of London, the payment that needs to be made to Zabist, the timeline and all of that. So your questions will be answered in a much, much clearer manner that way than I think if Hiba and I try to explain it to you right now orally. So anyway, keep the questions coming, people. I mean, we're more than happy to help and we're more than happy to answer whatever questions you may have. But let's move on. Let's move on to something. Yes.
Perhaps, can we just get one more, because I think that's important, regarding the LAT exam.
Sure.
And that's a common question, that whether the LAT is necessary for admission, and the answer straight off is no, it is not necessary. And Eeshah is going to be talking more about the admissions requirements in a minute. So, but just at the offset, everyone should know that there is no requirement to take the LAT exam.
Perfect. So the next question, again, that I wanted to ask you is, what is the mode of assessment? We've spoken about, the last question was about, the courses you're studying and what you are studying, right? But then again, what is the assessment? What is the exam? What decides whether you're going to pass or not?
So the University of London degree, I mean, the primary mode of assessment is your final exam, which is conducted by the University of London. And that is done through the British Council. So you would have like a formal, examination room once COVID is over. Currently, exams are online. But you essentially have a final year exam, which is 100% of your grade. However, during the course of the year at Zabist, we do have midterm exams as well as mock examinations to prepare you for the final examinations. In addition, your teachers will be taking quizzes, doing assignments, preparing, assisting you to learn how to prepare answers so that you're well prepared for the final exam.
Okay. And I think the next question that is extremely important, I think, especially for graduate entry students who are working in the day, what are the class timings like?
So this is a purely evening program. Our classes take place from 6 p.m. to 9:30. We do have tutorials slightly earlier in the day, so from about 4:30 onwards, but we do not have classes during the morning or afternoon. And as you said, this is very important. If somebody has personal or professional commitments, then this is a program that they can, make use of, because they can then manage their professional working lives along with doing the LLB program.
Okay, let's just take a couple of questions about. Urusa says, after masters, what is the duration of LLB? 2 or 3 years?
It's 2 years, but the I think slight caveat is that, number one, your master's would be either after a 4-year or after a 2-year undergraduate degree, number one. Number two, the University of London would be in charge of determining if they accept your master's degree or not. If they do, then in that case, yes, you would be able to take the degree in 2 years.
All right. 𝗲𝗲𝗍𝗻 Zarkoon asks, and if I can please answer this question, I am a government employee. Can I do it online? So unfortunately, that's not an option. If classes are online for everybody, given the pandemic, if that continues, then of course you can also do it online. But the moment that classes open up physically, and we're really, really hoping that they do, you will have to attend class. But again, what I'm going to say to you is that even if you are a government employee, I'm hoping that your work ends by 6, right? And mostly our classes begin after 6. Some of them do begin after 4:30. But again, that's a little flexible, and we can help you out there. We can try and make sure that we put you in a section where you can manage. But you can't, there is no guarantee of doing the entire program online. You will have to come in. I'm going to answer that question. Muhammad Ali Likhani Hiba, if you can address that question, please. He's again asking whether MBA students of ZABIST are also required to take IELTS before applying.
So the answer is still yes. Again, like I said earlier, if anybody wants to apply for an exception, then that will be something that you have to apply for and will be determined on a case-by-case basis. Our overall requirement is that all students, whether they're applying for the standard entry route or for the graduate entry route, they do need to have an IELTS requirement fulfilled.
Okay, great. Right, my next question, which I think somebody else also asked, and I think it's very, very relevant. What does the academic calendar look like? So what is the timeline? Admission test, interviews, classes starting, and all of that. What dates should potential candidates be locking down right now?
Right. So currently admissions are open. Admissions are going to stay open until August 7th. So August 7th is your last date to apply if you are looking to apply. After August 7th is when we start having our interview process. So for LLB students, our interviews are going to take place on the 12th and 13th of August. And for CertHE students, the interviews are going to take place from the 20th to the 24th of August. The CertHE students will also have an admissions test, which we again will talk about in detail in a little while. Classes, inshallah, will start on the 13th of September. So basically, you're looking at our academic year officially starting in mid-September on the 13th. Our first term runs until December. We then have midterm examinations at the end of December. We go into a short winter break and then come back in January for our second term, which runs until about the beginning of April. Then we have our mock examinations. We come back for a revision program in April, and in May, kind of just before your final exams start. And then final exams usually start about the middle or to end of May and in June. And that obviously varies because of the pandemic. It's been slightly different, but usually exams start kind of middle to end of May.
Okay, so just picking up from what you said about the CertHE admissions and the LLB admissions. So what's the process like? Will there be a test? Will there be an interview? Will there be both? What are candidates? What should they be expecting?
Right. For the LLB program, so anybody who is applying directly for the LLB, you are going to be giving your online application, which can be found on our Zabist website, which is zabist.edu.bk. You fill out the application form submitted before the 7th of August. after which LLB students will be called in for interviews. So we will have oral interviews for all LLB students. And again, this is without exception. There is no admission test for LLB students, but you will be having an interview after which an admissions decision will be made. For CertHE students, it's slightly different because after you've submitted your online application form on our website, again, before the 7th of August, we will then be having an admissions test. Now, this test is not set by SZABIST, it is set by the University of London. So it's actually a requirement of the University of London that you give this test. This is not a test that you need to worry about necessarily preparing for. It is a test which basically tests your ability to think critically and analyze a given case, and we can talk about that a little more later. So then you'll have basically this test kind of in the middle of August, and after the test you will then go on to having admissions interviews. So perhaps to put it very simply, for LLB you have an online application and an oral interview. For CertHE you have an online application, a University of London admissions test, and then an oral interview.
Makes sense. Okay. And I think now coming to the most popular question of the day, what are the admission requirements for LLB and or CertHE?
Right. So given that this is a pandemic year, there have actually been certain allowances or slight changes in the admissions requirements this year. So starting off, I guess, with LLB. Now for LLB, generally speaking, we require an O and A-level background. You need to have either a minimum of 3 courses in your A-levels or 1 A-level and then 2 O-levels. That's the simplest way I can put it. So either 3 A-levels or 1 A-level, 2 O-levels. And your grade must be between an A to a C. There are many permutations though. There are many different sort of allowances and requirements. And again, I would encourage everyone to look at the brochure to see if you kind of fit directly within those requirements. But what I do want to talk about right now is the fact that there have been a lot of changes in exams last year and this year, the A-level examinations. So what we now need to keep in mind is that if you are a student who for some reason was unable to take your AS examinations or your A-level examinations or both. So let's say you've only given your first year of A-levels, or you have not given A-levels at all, right? Because of the pandemic, you were unable to take your exam last year, and perhaps you're unable to take your exam this year. You are still eligible to apply as long as you have 3 O-levels between the grades of an A to a C. So this year, the University of London has made this exception. So if you are a student who has an O-level background and was unable to take the A-level examinations because of the COVID pandemic, you are still eligible to apply. There are certain additional requirements. So for example, we would require proof, for example, that you were going to sit your A-level examinations this year, but were unable to because of the pandemic. However, the important thing to keep in mind is that just because you have not been able to take your A-level examinations does not mean that you are now restricted or you can't apply. You can apply for the program, and we would encourage you to apply for the program and take advantage of this allowance that University of London has put forward. So that's as far as the LLB program is concerned. If you are a student with an intermediate background and you are applying for the CertHE program, then in that particular case, again, certain allowances because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So generally speaking, if you have your intermediate result, then that intermediate result must be a 55% or above. Okay, we know that the result has not come out this year, but let's say that you are somebody who has an intermediate result from past years, it must be a 55% or above. If you do not have an intermediate second year result and you only have an intermediate first year result, then that must be 55% or above. And let's say you don't have either. Again, because of the pandemic year, you don't have either your first or your second year inter result. You only have your metric result. You can still apply as long as your metric result is again 55% or more. And again, you must be able to show us proof that you have sat for or are going to be sitting for your intermediate examinations. So again, I would emphasize that this means that this year, actually, people with just an O-level background or people with just a metric background can still apply for the program. And again, we would highly encourage you to look at our website and to keep following our Facebook page, because we will be putting up, clearer posts with, all of these different allowances.
I was just going to say that is a whole lot of information. So for those of you who couldn't follow along, do not fret, because all of this information is up on the website, as we mentioned before. If you log into www.zabist.edu.pk and you look up law, you will find a separate brochure for LLB and a separate brochure for CertHE, which is completely updated. So you'll be able to see the requirements right there. And when they're in written form right in front of you, it'll make a lot more sense. Even if that doesn't make sense, you please feel free to message us, call us. Our numbers are available. We have a Facebook page. As Hiba said, please do follow our Facebook page, because these posts will be regularly posted. We will regularly be putting up this information in a manner that's easy to understand. And if there's still any questions, this is not it. This is just one form of, interacting with you all. But other than that, we're always open to questions. Please feel free to email us. Please feel free to send us messages on Facebook, and we will try and assist you with your queries as much as we can. And if you want, please feel free to walk into the admissions office and ask questions if you must, right? So that's also something that we're entirely open to. And again, the reason I keep mentioning the brochure, because a lot of you have questions about the fee, which I think is a very it's a very important question, of course. Before getting into something, you need to know what you're in for, right? So for that, again, as I said, the exact figures you'll be able to see on the brochure. The breakup will be listed down. But Hiba, what I want you to clarify to our audience right now is that the fee that they're paying, again, that confusion that, are we studying at Zabist? Are we studying at University of London? Who are we paying? Are we paying Zabist? Is Zabist paying University of London? What's happening there, right? So the fee that the student ultimately pays, who is the student paying the fee to?
So the fee is actually divided into two parts. Part of the fee is paid to Zabist as your teaching center. And part of the fee goes directly to the University of London. So for example, your tuition fee, your student activity fee, your admissions fee, the security deposit, these are all things that are paid to Zabist, because this is where you're getting admission, this is where you're going to be taught during the academic year. But there is a part of the fee that goes directly to University of London. For example, your application fee, your registration fee, because again, you're registering directly with University of London in order to get the degree from them. And then obviously your examination fee, because University of London is conducting your examinations. So it's kind of divided, and part of the fee comes to Zabist and part goes to University of London.
That makes sense. We're affiliated with both at the end of the day. The students are affiliated with both at the end of the day. So I think for me, when we talk about the basics of the LLB program, I think those are all the questions that I could think of. We can leave the floor open. If anybody else has any other questions, please feel free to put them down. And by the time that we wait for questions, Hiba, I'd like to ask you a personal question. Since you've studied from Zabist, both you and I have, but since I'm the one asking questions today, I would like to ask you, what made your experience at Zabist so special? Why is it that you advocate to everyone? Why is it that you encourage everyone to come to Zabist and to do this program? What was like, tell me about your time and what made it so beautiful and memorable?
So, it really was a very memorable time. And I think it says a lot, the fact that you and I are still there so many years later, says a lot about the fact that this place was special to us. And we did have an extremely, a really wonderful time while we were doing our LLB. I think perhaps the most important thing for me and what really stands out for me is the fact that I had an extremely supportive faculty, which, I would say on the one hand, my extremely supportive faculty, which really made it seem like, they were not really my teachers, but more like my mentors. And they were, they became almost like my friends. And that, I think, coupled with the fact that I made lifelong friends at Zabist, we were able to kind of create that community, as cliched as it sounds, right? We always say that it is our Zabist family. We always refer to it as our Zabist family, because of the fact that we do have that ability to make that community while we're there. And so I really think that, that's something that's really stayed with me. And obviously now both, yourself and me, try to create exactly that same environment that our faculty members created for us, and we try not to be teachers as much as we try to be the friends and mentors of our students. And obviously we hope that that is an environment that we are able to create and sustain while, for the new communities coming into Zabist.
Great. So we have another question by, I agree with, by the way, everything you said, every single word, since we were in the same batch and we saw each other, we lived through the same time. So I absolutely agree.
Absolutely.
What about the LET test? Hiba.
So yeah, this is as we said earlier, there are no additional admissions requirements. So the local 5-year LLB requires you to take the LAT test, but our 3-year University of London program does not have that requirement for admission. So if you are applying for admissions to the LLB program, all you are doing is filling out our online application form on our website, which is zabist.edu.pk. And then you are coming in for an oral interview. So we do not require any additional admissions tests, even though, yes, that is a requirement for the local 5-year LLB program.
Okay, so Naufal, I hope that answers your question. Again, Mohammad Umar Khero asks, fee structure per annum. Is it divided per annum, Hiba?
The fee structure is, it's divided on a yearly basis, but also during the course of the year, there are different payments to be made at different times. And that's something I think we need to keep in mind. So for example, your admissions fee is going to be paid to Zabist at the time of admission. But your registration fee for University of London is paid later in the year towards October, the end of October. On the other hand, your examination fee to University of London is paid a little later in the second term. So yes, it is spread out over the course of a year. And obviously your tuition fee to Zabist you will pay at the time of admission. But there are sort of different payments at different times. Again, this is the requirement of University of London based on when you register with them, when you apply for exams with them.
And Omar, if you'd like to know, again, the details of exactly how much is to be paid when, we have a chart made up. This is what I was saying earlier, in case you just joined. We have a chart made up where we've helpfully broken down the fees, right? So the component that needs to be paid to Zabist and the component that needs to be paid to University of London, it's been broken down in a lot of detail with, the exact amount that needs to be paid. So again, that is in our brochure, and you will find the brochure on our website. Again, www.zabist.edu.pk. If you go there, you'll look for law, you'll find a brochure for LLB, you'll find a brochure for SZABIST, and not just the fee structure, you'll actually find a bulk of information that I think will be very, very helpful and very, very interesting if you're actually interested in the program. I think it's a lot of very helpful information that's there. But again, the fee structure, the details of all of that is also there, and it's very simple. So it's going to be very, very easy to understand. So please do take a look at that. Or if you don't want to visit the website, you can again visit the admissions office, pick up a hard copy of the brochure and have a look at it. So again, we have Mohammed Abu Bakr and Hiba. He is asking, this question is repetition, but I think because people have just joined in, I don't see the harm in, I think, answering this again. He asks, what are the benefits of the UOL law as compared to local law program, which is 5 years? So if you could just shed some light on that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. This is an extremely important question, I think a concern. And really the bottom line is just the fact that the University of London degree, which you get at the end of 3 years, you are not getting that degree from Zabist. You are not getting that degree from any degree awarding body in Pakistan, but you're actually getting that degree from the University of London, which is obviously an established institution in the United Kingdom. So what is the biggest benefit of that? The biggest benefit is that it makes your postgraduate opportunities much broader and perhaps easier than if you had a local law degree. So you can basically, this is a degree which is internationally recognized. You can take this degree, you can apply for postgraduate educational opportunities, postgraduate professional opportunities, in the UK, in the US, anywhere else really in the world. And you do not need to have the requirement of applying for an equivalency, doing an additional year, a conversion program. None of that is necessary because you will have this degree, which is internationally recognized.
All right, Abu Bakr, I hope that answers your question.
So I think, Eeshah, perhaps it's really important to emphasize to anybody who is watching, and we've been saying this throughout, but if you've just tuned in, please follow our Facebook page, which is Zabist Law School. We will intermittently be posting updates, which I think will be very helpful during the application process. We will be having more webinars as well, and more Facebook Lives, which will obviously help to answer further questions that you guys have. If you have specific questions, we would highly encourage you to inbox message us on Facebook. We are fairly responsive on that, and you can get a quick response through there. The other option is to email us at lawschool@zabist.edu.pk. So that's another way you can get in touch with us quickly. Campus is now open. Our admissions department is open, and Eeshah did say this earlier. But in the event that you want to come to campus and actually meet someone, I think, in this pandemic year, we're all a little done with Zoom and online interactions. So if you actually want to come and meet someone, then our admissions department is open, and we would encourage you to come in anytime from Monday to Friday to meet with our admission department representatives in person. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. Eeshah, anything else from your end?
Not at all. I think we've answered most of the questions that students have. In fact, I think, Hiba, you've answered more than the questions that I asked. So I think our audience is also quite satisfied. I don't see any new questions. And again, since you've provided all the details as to where we can be reached, how we can be reached, you have all of that information with you. As Hiba said, please do follow our Facebook page. That is, I think, the best way to communicate with us if there are any questions. So yeah, I think on that note, we will sign out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much, Hiba, for
August 7th. So we should emphasize that you have till August 7th to apply.
August 7th. You have till August 7th to make up your mind. Also, yeah, Hiba, I'd really like to thank you. I think the information that you gave out today was very, very valuable. You explained everything very clearly. So thank you so much for your time. And for everybody here, everybody in the comments, we hope to see you. We hope to see you in our during interviews, and good luck. Good luck to everyone. All right.
Thank you so much, Eeshah. Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.